Well, and with the lockdown coming into effect later on this week, let's take you through some of those important pointers, that you need to take into consideration and that you need to know and probably learn off heart, I think. 21 days.
By the time 21 days is over, you will know what is a lockdown, as you can see there, giving you the important stats on what will or will not be open.
Well, as you can see, what does a lockdown mean? It means that emergency protocol that requires South Africans to stay at home and except for essential purposes. But if you go onto the list that has been released by the government as well, there are other services that have been exempted and that have been categorized as services that are important in support of the fight against the coronavirus.
So the important thing is, what are non-essential activities? What will I be able to do under lockdown? Here is a rundown of what you will be able to do. So it's necessary, for one. It'll prevent the spread of the virus and save lives of South Africans.
And let's see that who is allowed to remain at work during this period. So this is it. Okay, so this one is actually around the rules. So if you break the rules that have been imposed, including, if you remember that the president mentioning last night, that you will have the SANDF who will be deployed to help the police in enforcing the laws and also making sure that there is compliance. As you can see that the slide that we have up on at the moment saying that anyone breaking the rules could be punished with imprisonment for up to 1 month or with a fine. And this also includes companies, including those that are price hiking.
All right, so Audrey, let's look at the next one where we talk about what you will be able to do. This is important. It's one of the things that I was asking you as well. I said, would I be able to take a jog outside? And you said to me, why? Take a jog around your house. So you will be able to seek medical care, buy groceries, visit the pharmacy. So it's all around what is urgent and necessary. If you need to be able to ensure that your food at home, if you're feeling ill and need to get medication, or you need to go see a doctor, collect a social grant. Very, very important for many of our SASSA beneficiaries, especially pensioners. We make the assumption that when we say people must go out and buy groceries, that they actually do have the money at the moment to go shop for groceries. Not so.
Yeah, indeed. Actually, looking at that point around to go get petrol. So where would you be driving to? Good
question. That's why I actually, quite frankly, didn't read. Unless you are part of the essential services.
Yeah, exactly.
Then that's one's important to you and I, because I think we'll need that to come to work.
We are part of those supporting services, as the president indicated last night. Let's look at this slide. Who will remain at work? Tepiso and I will remain at work.
Present.
And there's also a list of essential services that have been published, including the pharmacies, banks, supermarkets, petrol stations, as well as healthcare providers.
Okay, now let's see the next one, which talks about what if you have an emergency. And this is a good question. A lot of people are confused about this. It means you still will be able to get access to a doctor, go to a clinic, go to hospital. The pharmacies we mentioned earlier on, that they will continue to operate as usual.
Considering that we just had that story from the traditional healers, I wonder if they would fall under this category as well.
Remember, one of the traditional healers actually did call in on one of our sister programs saying, you know, what can we do? Is this part of the greater plan, COVID attack plan that government has? It would seem, I'm not entirely sure, but COCTA has not mentioned this. I know they're in talks with stakeholders, but they have not really included them into their plan to combat COVID-19. So should be interesting to see down the line if that's going to happen.
And even if whether government will heed that call, that they be included among the stakeholders who are trying to combat the spread of the virus. Let's move over to the next slide. And here it is. Should you stock up now? Should you?
Yes, but don't, what's the word?
Stockpile.
Thank you. So you can go to the grocery stores. Banking services will remain open throughout the lockdown period. Yes, by the way, many people have already been to the shops. I did hear some shops warning that if you don't buy tomorrow, there's going to be a stampede. Please don't adhere to that alarm. There won't be any such thing. Food will remain in the stores. And toilet paper, most importantly, we manufacture toilet paper, that will still be in the stores and available.
And let's see the final slide that we have here. Can you go to work? Well, as we've indicated earlier on, there's only a number of essential services that will be allowed to go to work, including what the President mentioned yesterday, those who form part of the production process of food.
And so in the agriculture value chain,
yes,
vehicles that transport food and medication, etc. And he mentioned the security services, even the army medical services, etc., etc. And I think it is also important to highlight to companies that have still not done this, entities that have not given their workers permission. They shouldn't actually be giving them permission to stay at home. We are under lockdown, but by tomorrow, at least they should have indicated that people who can work home as of tomorrow, they should. But by certainly Thursday, if you have not been given permission, you should be on lockdown by midnight.
Actually, I've spoken to a couple of people on social media as well who have said that their companies are not allowing them at all to stay at home. They have been told that
it bothers me.
No work, no pay will apply during this period. And I think quite critical to this conversation as well, which unfortunately wasn't included in the interministerial committee's briefing this morning, is that the informal sector, and we know how important the informal sector is to South Africa's economy, the informal sector unfortunately is not catered for in the measures that have been put in place.
And as we said yesterday, by its very nature, it's informal. So people like that will be tempted to be out there eking out a living because they have nothing else to fall back on. So unfortunately, for those of you who are going to feel the stranglehold of this lockdown, please take care of yourself and your health. And I'm sure the government will ensure that everybody is catered for. If not, of course, we'll be here asking those questions, pushing for that to happen, for you to get those answers.
So over to